Hi, friends. This is part two of the third grade reading lesson. Yesterday, we started reading a story called Fur, Skin, Scales, or Feathers. What I would like you to start by doing is turning to page 12 in your booklet and read the main idea that we wrote about furry coats. And then when you're done with that, go ahead and turn to page 14 and read the main idea that we wrote about smooth skins. All right. And when you are ready, we will start on page 15. You need a pencil and a highlighter. Here we go.
Dry scales. Reptiles are cold-blooded animals. Scales cover their bodies. Scales are made of keratin, the same material in a person's fingernails. Reptile scales help them survive in different ways. Crocodiles are reptiles. They are covered in thick scales. Their thick scales help protect their bodies from injuries. Scales also help keep their underlying skin moist. This helps them live on land or water. Crocodiles rely on their surroundings to control their body temperature. To warm their bodies, crocodiles lie in the sun. To cool down, crocodiles swim in water. The color of a crocodile's body provides camouflage too.
Crocodile.
All right. So much information about crocodiles so far. But before we do that, let's go ahead and we should probably highlight that reptiles' scales, oops, help them survive in different ways. This might be part of our main idea, right? Okay, so now let's highlight about crocodiles. So crocodiles have scales, and their scales help protect them from what? Find that sentence. What do their thick scales help protect them from? You should have highlighted their thick scales help protect their bodies from injuries. Okay. And they also keep part of their skin moist. So we should highlight this next sentence: keep their underlying skin moist. So by keeping their skin moist, they can live on land or on water, like those amphibians, too. Okay. So, the crocodile skin doesn't keep it cool or warm. They'd use their surroundings to do that. But their scales do provide camouflage, right? So a lot of times you might have seen like a crocodile, just you can only see like the nose of it or the eyes of it, right? Or the mouth. So their skin or their scales definitely help it camouflage. All right, let's keep going. Page 16.
Lizards are reptiles. An iguana is a kind of lizard. Scales not only help protect iguanas from attackers, but also limit the loss of warmth and moisture. Iguanas have black, brown, or green scales covering their bodies. The color of their bodies provides camouflage. Iguanas also depend on their surroundings to control their body temperature. Like crocodiles, iguanas lie in the sun to warm their bodies. However, to cool down, iguanas lie in the shade. An iguana has another adaptation to its body covering. A flap of extra skin hangs from its throat. The flap of skin is called a dewlap. When threatened, an iguana will puff up its dewlap to look bigger. This can scare away some predators.
Green iguana.
Okay, so now these last three paragraphs in this section are talking about iguanas, which is a type of lizard, which is a reptile. So we learned some things about their scales, right? So it helps from attackers, but it also, what? Go ahead and find that sentence in paragraph 14. it says it limits the loss of warmth and moisture, right? So the scales help iguanas stay warm and keep their skin wet. And just like those crocodiles, they also provide camouflage. All right. Let's see. We also learned in paragraph 16 about that flap of skin, right? So that is another adaptation, but it's not necessarily about its scales. So while that paragraph is very interesting, we are not going to highlight in it because it's not really talking about the scales of the iguana. So, what we're going to do now, we're going to flip back to page 16 and we are going to write our main idea. So, we have to write a main idea about dry scales. So, let's get ready to do that. So, we'll start by saying dry scales and a colon, just like we did on the other one. And we basically learned that scales provide camouflage, right? They protect their bodies and they keep their skin moist. So, would you say that's a pretty good main idea if we list those three things? Okay, so we'll say reptiles, and the apostrophe goes after the S because the reptiles own the scales and there's many reptiles. So, it's reptiles, and then the apostrophe after the S shows the ownership. Scales help protect. Actually, no help. Let's see. Protect them, provide camouflage, oops, and keep their skin moist. So lots of important things that these scales do to help reptiles. If you need to pause the video to finish writing this main idea, you can. Otherwise, let's keep going. Last section, fantastic feathers.
Fantastic feathers. Feathers are a unique adaptation. Birds are the only animals that have feathers. Like reptile scales, feathers are mostly made of keratin. Keratin makes feathers strong and durable. Like scales, feathers protect a bird's body, keeping it warm and dry. There are many different kinds of feathers. Down feathers are closest to the bird's skin. They are soft and fluffy. Down feathers keep birds warm by trapping air. Contour feathers are the visible top layer. They provide the shape and the color of a bird. Flight feathers are light and wide. These feathers cover the wings and tail of a bird. They help a bird fly. Flight feathers also help birds steer, keep their balance, and land. They help birds fly away from predators too.
Wing feathers of a hawk. Mallard.
All right, so much information about feathers here, right? So let's grab our highlighters and let's start highlighting some important things. So we learned that birds are the only animals that have feathers. You probably already knew that though. And that feathers protect a bird's body, keeping it warm and dry. Okay. Now, then in paragraphs 18 to 19, we start to learn about different types of feathers. What we're going to do is we are going to just highlight, one or two things about each type of feather. So, down feathers are the first one, and we're going to highlight what do they do. So, down feathers keep birds warm by trapping the air. Then the next one says contour feathers. We're going to skip a little bit. provide the shape and color of a bird. Okay. Then the next one we learn about is flight feathers. What do flight feathers do? Find the sentence that tell what they help do. So flight feathers, make sure you highlight that. Help a bird fly. They also help birds steer, keep their balance, and land. And obviously, they help birds fly away from predators. That makes sense, right? Okay, let's turn the page when you're ready. A few more paragraphs about bird feathers.
Birds use their feathers in different ways. Male peacocks use their colorful feathers to attract mates. Peacock feathers have an eye spot at the end. These spots help attract more mates. Peacocks also use their feathers for defense. When a predator is nearby, the male peacock opens his feathers wide to look bigger.
Okay, so we just learned about peacock feathers now. And we know that males use the colorful feathers to attract mates. So that's one way that feathers are used. And they also use them for what? Defense, right? So it says when they see a predator, they open up their feathers and it makes them look big. Have you ever seen a peacock that has their feathers open up? Sometimes they're walking around the zoo or the wild animal park. They look so much bigger when they have their feathers out, right? It's kind of crazy. Okay, let's see what it has to say about macaws.
Macaws live in rainforests. They have colorful feathers that blend in with the bright flowers and fruits in the trees. Their beautiful feathers provide camouflage to hide from predators.
So again, feathers, just like scales, can help animals hide from predators because they provide camouflage. So we'll highlight the word macaws because that's the bird that we are talking about. And we'll highlight beautiful because they are very colorful. Look at this picture down here. Beautiful feathers provide camouflage to hide from predators. All right, two more birds to read about, and let's see how their feathers help protect them.
Duck's feathers serve a special purpose. The air trapped in a duck's downy feathers helps it float on water. Oil on its feathers keeps its body dry and warm.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy, right? So it says we're learning about ducks, so obviously let's highlight ducks. And it says there's air that gets trapped in their downy feathers and it helps it float. So, because of the air in their feathers, that's why ducks can float. So, let's highlight that. The air trapped in a duck's downy feathers helps it float on water. And then the oil in its feathers keeps it dry and warm. So many amazing things about feathers. Okay, one last little paragraph for feathers.
Owls have feathers on their faces that collect sounds. These feathers help sharpen owls' hearing.
Blue and yellow macaws.
So this one's so interesting. Before reading this, I didn't really know this. So an owl has feathers on its face, which I knew that. But these feathers help them hear the sounds better. They sharpen an owl's hearing, which means they make it better. So we'll highlight owls and we'll highlight feathers on their faces collect sounds. Pretty cool, right? So fascinating. All right, we're just going to read this last paragraph right here, and then we're going to write our last main idea.
Whether an animal has fur, skin, scales, or feathers, Its body covering provides various ways to survive.
All right, so here's what we are going to do. We are going to go back to page 17. We are going to write our main idea about feathers, and then we will go back to that chart on page 19. So grab your pencil, and we are going to write feathers with a colon. Actually, let's write fantastic feathers. They truly are amazing. So we learned so many different things about feathers, right? All birds have certain feathers that do certain jobs, right? But we can basically say that feathers protect a bird's body and keep it warm and dry, right? Um, but there's also things like it helps them fly, it determines their color, it keeps them safe, right? So I think it'd be best to write just a general main idea here of something like feathers help birds. Would you say they help birds survive? And they do all kinds of things. There are way too many to name. So we'll just say in many different ways. And you can go back and you can look at all of your highlights and it'll show you exactly what certain feathers do to protect them and help them survive in their environments and their habitats. All right, if you need to pause the video, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to go look at that chart. So on page 19, you have a chart and it goes over each of the different sections. That is right here in this darker orange. And then it tells you the animal, their adaptation, so how it helps them survive, and then what animal group they're in. So the first round are the mammals. So we have a tiger who has black and orange stripes, a leopard who has round or square black spots, and an Arctic fox whose fur changes color within the season. Then we're going to talk about the skin of an amphibian. So a poison dart frog releases that poison from its skin, and a salamander releases a special liquid to stay wet and to also attract a mate. I'm sorry. Moving on to the reptiles and their scales, the crocodile lies in the sun and swims in the water to control its temperature. And an iguana has that dewlap to look bigger, right? So that part that hangs down from its chin. And then finally, the feathers. We know that only birds have feathers, right? The male peacock uses its eye spots at the edge of its feathers to attract mates. The macaws are brightly colored. The ducks have their down feathers to float. And the owl has facial feathers to help collect the sound and make their sound and hearing better. All right, friends, that is it for our reading lesson today. Great job. We'll see you later.